Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've been raving about civil asset forfeiture for quite some time now. And it's one of those things that every time people hear about it, they go, that's wrong. Why is it still happening? Because more people need to hear about it. And as more people hear about it, more people get upset. And there are small instances where some states are turning it around, finally either regulating it or doing away with it or just making small steps. And it's not gone yet by any stretch of the imagination, but steps are being made. And Karen sent me an email and said, Steve, check out the article on Forbes.com written by Nick Sabilla. And this is a great bit of news. Georgia Department returns over $2 million seized from small businesses, all under civil asset forfeiture. Without ever being convicted of a crime, Americans can have their property permanently confiscated through civil asset forfeiture. And worse, agencies of the government can keep the forfeited property or its proceeds to pad their budgets, which creates a clear conflict of interest. And we've talked about this before. The police are incentivized to take your money. And agencies that are allowed to do this, if they get to keep the money, again, they're incentivized to do it. We've seen stories about police departments that use the money. They've got so much money, they don't know what to do with it. So they start buying silly stuff. So case in point, consider the Office of Special Investigations at the Georgia Department of Revenue. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution ran big articles on this. There they said the department had improperly kept more than $5 million in forfeiture funds for themselves. The department treated civil forfeiture like a slush fund. That's a quote, like a slush fund. They purchased gym equipment, salmon jerky dog treats, commemorative Super Bowl badges, and even a fleet of more than 30 new cars, including a Ford F-350 that the head of the department used as his personal car. But in a welcome surprise, the Georgia Department of Revenue recently announced that it will return more than $2.1 million in forfeiture proceeds and will no longer retain or spend forfeiture funds. They've been shamed into doing this. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution, running these articles and the investigations, convinced many people that what was happening here in Georgia was wrong. And the department's, we'll give the money back now. So the misspending is a potent reminder of what can go wrong when agencies self-finance. To check the power of the other branches of government, it is critical to have a democratically elected and publicly accountable legislative body control the power of the purse. In order to provide independent oversight under Georgia law, any money forfeited by a state agency must be sent to the general fund, where it can then be appropriated for specific programs, including things like drug treatment, rehab, counsel for the indigent, and the state's crime victims emergency fund. Additionally, state law allows legislators to send forfeiture funds back to state law enforcement agencies, particularly for advanced drug investigation and prosecution training. So the proper way to do it would be if the money came in the department's supposed to hand it to the state, let the state decide how to spend it. If the state decided to send it back and say, you guys can buy your F-350s and your salmon jerky treats, then you could do it. But they know that wouldn't happen. So those safeguards only apply to seizures and forfeitures conducted by state agencies and not local law enforcement. So right now, police departments, sheriff's offices, and district attorneys can keep money they seize and without any legislative approval or oversight. For instance, the Atlanta Police Department alone has spent more than $4.2 million in forfeiture expenses since 2017. This, of course, gives agencies a perverse financial incentive that often warps law enforcement priorities to focus on cases that can land a major payout rather than protect public safety. And that's one I haven't even really talked about that much. I've said, hey, if there's money here and they can take it knowing they get to keep it if they take it, they're encouraged, they're incentivized to take the money. But what he's pointing out, Nick Sabilla's got a great point here, is that if the police have a couple different things they can investigate, let's face it, they generally have more than enough work. They will often now not just be incentivized to take the money and keep it, but to look for cases where the cash is. So if there's an investigation that might turn a bunch of cash over here, or an investigation that might solve a homicide, well, solving a homicide doesn't bring money into the kitty. But that case over there might. So let's go after that. So they're going to start focusing more, human nature would do this, start focusing more on where they're going to get the greater rewards. If the rewards are money, they can do things to like buy F-350s to drive around and call it a work vehicle. So The Department of Revenue obtained most of its forfeiture funding by aggressively seizing assets linked to stores accused of having illegal gambling machines, which is hardly the biggest pressing threat to society. Disturbingly, the department even seized college savings accounts belonging to store owners' children. And of course, there's equitable sharing, which is a federal forfeiture program that netted Georgia law enforcement agencies $11 million last year. By working with feds, state and local law enforcement can collect up to 80% of the proceeds from forfeited property. So again, the feds come in and conduct an investigation in your state and they say, look, we find cash, we'll split it with you. According to one recent study, forfeiture is often driven by a desire for more revenue, with a 1% increase in local unemployment associated with a 9% increase in seizures through equitable sharing. Meanwhile, more forfeiture funding did not correlate with more solved crimes or lower drug usage rates, belying the notion that civil forfeiture is some essential crime-fighting tool, which is what the police always say. When they're asked about this, they go, well, it's a very powerful tool to fight crime. When the criminals know we're going to come in and take their money, then they think twice about it. No, they don't. Criminals don't want to go to prison. That's what they think twice about. To prevent further abuse, lawmakers should abolish civil forfeiture entirely and replace it with criminal forfeiture. And that's what I've been talking about. We'll get that in a second. Moreover, states need to end the financial incentive for local agencies by depositing all forfeiture proceeds into the general fund. Not only is this already the law for state agency forfeitures in Georgia, other states like Missouri and North Carolina ban their law enforcement agencies from retaining forfeiture funds. Georgia should follow the lead and end the powerful profit incentive that fuels abusive forfeitures. Again, Forbes.com, Nick Sabilla. And I've said this before, and this is the most obvious legal solution to this problem. Right now, if the police pull you over, you're driving down the road, the police pull you over, they search your car and they find a wad of cash. They just take it. They go, we think you were doing something criminal, cash has something to do with that. They just take it. Civil asset forfeiture. You're not charged with a crime. They never accuse you of a crime. They don't have to. They can just take your money and keep it. If you want the money back, you've got to sue them and prove you're innocent. In essence, you got to prove the money is innocent. It's crazy. It's a crazy, mixed up, topsy-turvy legal situation. It goes back hundreds of years. People say, sue the cop. You'll lose. They say, sue the police department. Well, if you can prove that the money's innocent, you'll get your money back. That's it. The most you can do is get your money back. That's literally the most you can get. So the easiest solution is to say that if a crime is committed and during the investigation of the crime, proceeds or assets that were clearly associated with the crime were also seized. So in other words, and I'll give you the hypothetical, they break into with a search warrant, they bust into a drug manufacturing facility that's making illegal drugs. So they lock the place down, they arrest everyone there, they figure out who's behind it, and they seize everything on the premises, including manufacturing paraphernalia, scales, chemical equipment, the drugs themselves, and, oh, by the way, duffel bags full of cash. Most people would have no problem agreeing with the concept that the same way that they can seize the illegal drugs, they can seize weapons, they can seize the stuff that was used to distribute the drugs, they can likewise seize the money that was a direct, obvious asset of that ongoing criminal enterprise, okay? Most people have got no problem with that. So what you would do is you would make civil asset forfeiture go away, just outlaw it, and say you can have criminal asset forfeiture, such that if there is a crime charged and someone is convicted of the crime, you would then ask the jury as part of their deliberations, if you found this person guilty, do you likewise find that these things were part of the criminal activity, yes or no? And if the jury says yes, they were, boom, it's forfeited. If the jury says no, they're not, such as the college funds of the kids, then that would go back. And that's such a simple solution. And everyone who hears that goes, oh, that makes complete sense. Why don't they do that? Well, because right now they're incentivized not to do that because they get to keep all the money they can find. And there are stories about people who've had small amounts of cash taken from them for no reason, because the police know that to get it back is not worth the trouble for most people. So it's a great article, and it's a small step in the right direction that Georgia has decided to give some money back. But, they're giving back $2 million. How much more have they kept? That's the problem. And so everyone needs to be aware of what civil asset forfeiture is, how bad it is, and how it is, present in all 50 states at some level or another, feds and state, and about how it needs to be outlawed, and how that you can turn it into criminal asset forfeiture when tied to an actual conviction and a crime charge, and that makes complete sense. So there's a very simple solution, and it appears that the only thing we can do at this point right now is simply make more people aware of this, okay? So when you talk to people, if you hear this topic come up, inform them, let them know. It's not just criminals having their money and stuff taken. It's innocent people have their stuff taken and they can't get it back. Or if they can get it back, it costs them more than it ought to. So it's crazy. So again, Karen, thanks for sending me the story. Nick Sabilla wrote it for Forbes.com. Georgia Department returns over $2 million seized from small businesses. Great story. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Seize the day. Put no trust in tomorrow.